Dharanam, containing substances. Sat Visheshanam, distinguishing the open space. Sarva, all. Sattva, of existence. Guna, qualities. Udbedaha, the place for manifestation. Prithvi, of earth. Vritti, of the functions. Lakshanam, the characteristics. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The characteristics of the functions of earth can be perceived by modeling forms of the Supreme Brahman, by constructing places of residence, by preparing pots to contain water, etc. In other words, the earth is a place of sustenance for all elements. Purport. Different elements such as sound, sky, air, fire and water can be perceived in the earth. Another feature of the earth especially mentioned here is that earth can manifest different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By this statement of Kapila's, it is confirmed that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Brahman, has innumerable forms which are described in the scriptures. By manipulation of earth and its products such as stone, wood and jewels, these forms of the Supreme Lord can be present before our eyes. When a form of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu is manifested by presentation of a statue made of earth, it is not imaginary. The earth gives shape to the Lord's forms as described in the scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita, there is a description of Lord Krishna's lands, the variegatedness of the spiritual abode, and the forms of the Lord playing a flute with his spiritual body. All these forms are described in scriptures, and when they are thus presented, they become worshipable. They are not imaginary as the Mayavadi philosophy says. Sometimes the word bhavana is misinterpreted as imagination. But bhavana does not mean imagination. It means giving actual shape to the description of the Vedic literature. Earth is the ultimate transformation of all living entities and their respective modes of material nature. We'll read up to text 49. I'm reading the translation and purport and the translations up to text 49. The sense whose object of perception is sound is called the auditory sense, and that whose object of perception is touch is called the tactile sense. Purport. Sound is one of the qualifications of the sky and is the subject matter for hearing. Similarly, touch is the qualification of the air and is the subject of the touch sensation. Text 48. Translation. The sense whose object of perception is form, the distinctive characteristic of fire is the sense of sight. The sense whose object of perception is taste, the distinctive characteristic of water is known as the sense of taste. Finally, the sense whose object of perception is odor, the distinctive characteristic of earth is called the sense of smell. Text 49, translation. Since the cause exists in its effect as well, the characteristics of the former are observed in the later. That is why the peculiarities of all the elements exist in the earth alone. Purport. Sound is the cause of the sky. Sky is the cause of the air. Air is the cause of fire. Fire is the cause of water, and water is the cause of earth. In the sky, there is only sound. In the air, there are sound and touch. In the fire, there are sound, touch, and form. In water, there are sound, touch, form, and taste. And in earth, there are sound, touch, form, taste, and smell. Therefore, earth is the reservoir of all the qualities of the other elements. Earth is the sum total of all other elements. The earth has all 5 qualities of the elements. Water has 4 qualities. fire has 3, air has 2, and the sky has only one quality, sound. Umakyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tamsajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mother Devahuti carried the spirit of devotion in her heart, and she had a in one sense parental relationship with Lord Kapila, but she transferred that to of guru and disciple, and in that proper spirit she is approaching Lord Kapila and inquiring. One of the inquiries in the previous chapter which talked about where she inquires, can you describe in detail the knowledge of the tattvas and the transformation of the material nature, how material nature binds a living entity, the tattva of the Supreme Person. So this chapter is the elaboration of that. It gives Sambandha Gyan about who the living entity is, who the Lord is, what the material nature is, how the material nature binds the living entity. In the beginning of this chapter, we also see what do you get, what's the purpose, and what's the result of studying Sankhya. The entanglement of material nature, you come out of it, then you hear about Hridaya Granthi Bedanam, the cutting of the heart, knot in the heart, because every interaction with the material nature creates impressions, and then over a period it's like a hard knot in the heart. So this knowledge cuts the hard knot in the heart. Many times we hear, even in the Bhagavad Gita, Asanga Sastrena Tridena Chitva. Take the sword of knowledge and cut the knot of attachment. So, having described the spirit in which the subject matter of Sankhya should be approached, the result of understanding Sankhya and the purpose, we are inspired to read further. We many times in this particular section where the transformation is happening, the translations and purports seem to be quite repetitive. And as previous speakers have touched upon, they gave a lot of good examples as to how the, I think Rajanath Prabhu was giving the example of seed, how the material existence, in the seed form, it's pradhan, and when it's manifest, it's prakriti. Then the transformation happens, and then how he described that the whole existence transforms from that seed state, it's slowly starting to manifest. Then we see the manifestation of Suddha Sattva, the Vasudev state. And that state is described, and that is what we must be aiming for. And that's presided by the deity of Vasudev. Then the living entities are impregnated, then it transforms into Mahatattva, then Mahatattva into Ahankar. So we have presiding deity for all of them. So for the false ego, the presiding deity is Lord Sankarshana. Then that ignorance, Ahankar, false ego in the mode of predominated by ignorance, and that is the platform of this material world. I think that's how very interestingly Vajrayana Prabhu said about the sandwich. I don't know if you heard that. It just, I was able to relate to it because I'm more in the Annamaya platform. So he said that that's the platform, that's the base. So from that Ahankar, then we saw the transformations happening from there in the mode of, within that, the mode of goodness, the mind and the demigods are created. And in the mode of passion, intelligence and the senses are created, and how the senses are always looking out, turned outside, to create unlimited desires. Then in the mode of ignorance, the 5 great elements are created. Every time the transformation happens, in this particular section where the creation is described, the focus, at least I, based on my limited knowledge, is on the intervention of the Lord. Every transformation happens because the Lord is present in the form of Kala and is doing the transformation. But he doesn't do it directly. So how do we understand this with a day-to-day example is, most of you are experts in cooking, right? What are some, so if you want to make a pumpkin soup, what's the procedure? Each one can tell one steps. What do you do? Cut the pumpkin, step 1. Okay, what next? Someone else. Yeah, you have cut now, then. Okay, so for boiling, what do we need? We need a stove and a pot. What else? Turn the fire on. If you look at the menu, if you look at the recipe, in the ingredients, we don't consider fire. But without turning on the fire, none of the transformation will happen. Say if I follow the steps, I cut the pumpkin, I put it in the pot, I put water on the pot, I put salt, everything. And then I wait, nothing happens. Why? Because in the steps, I missed the crucial step of turning on the fire. So fire enters the pot through the heat, and then the heat is what is transforming. The fire doesn't go inside the pot. You don't see the pot burning, unless if you leave it for a long time. But this is how the Lord enters, but He doesn't enter directly. He enters through the form of time. And the time and through the creative energy, the supervision of the Lord, every step that's being emphasized. Now, why so many transformations? Because that much amount of desires the living entity has. The living entity can do 2 things. He can desire and he can hanker for it. Only when the Lord sanctions, then he can fulfill those desires. And Prakriti is giving that variety of enjoyment by all of these transformations. So you want to have a nice smell, nice sight, nice taste, all of that. By giving all of this, and through her knowledge covering potency and a throwing potency, plus the three modes, plus the influence of the time. When the living entity starts to enjoy all of this, so he incurs what is called as karma. So karma again binds. Simultaneously, the time is ticking. The living entity is forgetting that he is losing time. Time is progressing. So time, Prabhupada describes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita as the duration between creation and destruction. So the living entity forgets and he is enamored by these facilities that is given by the material nature. So how each of the elements bind and what are the characteristics through which we are being bound, that is being described here. The beauty of Srila Prabhupada's purpose is that even when describing all of this transformation, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes how this whole matter can be turned into spirit. And that's the process of devotional service, to turn matter into spirit. In probably the 7th chapter, one of the purports, Prabhupada talks about this. Devotional service is about transforming matter into spirit. So how do we understand this? So for this garlands and flower, so earlier they were outside, they were in the market and they were brought in, and a nice garland is made and then it is offered to the spiritual master or to the deities. So matter, so now I am considering this garland with awe and reverence, I put it on my head, I honor it. Why? Because it is transferred into spirit. That doesn't mean that the garland is conscious and it starts speaking. You see the point? How converting matter into spirit? The same thing, the pumpkin soup, when it's offered to Guru and the Lord, what does it become? Prasad. So Bhoga is transforming into Prasad. So this is what is happening in the Bhakti Yoga process, where all the elements, we don't reject them, we don't deny, and we don't say it is false. The manifestation of the material nature is temporary, but when it is manifested, it has got its potency. The tattva of Prakriti is not false. It's eternal, but the manifestation and unmanifestation happens. It appears as though it's real, but it does not have substance. So what Prakriti does is, she is giving the facility, and because the living entity wants to enjoy, and the living entity understands this, and then he acquires knowledge. So by facility and by the knowledge, you get enjoyment. So the facility itself is the base ignorance, which is the impermanent nature. That's the foundation. And then the knowledge again is related to manipulating matter. So what you get is a temporary happiness. But what's the living entity hankering for? He is hankering for a permanent situation which is unchanging, and he wants complete knowledge and he wants unending happiness. So that is why there is a mismatch between Achit, Asat, Nirananda versus the living entity who wants, what does the living entity want? Sat, Chit and Ananda. Now to get to this platform of Satchitananda, we are now in the material world. So when we come to Abhidheya, we know the goal is to go to the abode of the Lord. Depending on the goal that you choose. If you're choosing the goal as Brahman, then you will follow the process of Jnana Yoga, which is what's going to come up next. If you want to attain Paramatma level realization, that also Lord Kapila will describe. Still meditation is involved. If you want to attain the abode of the Lord, then you do pure devotion. That was described in the previous chapter, and it will be elaborated in the further chapters as well. So Prakriti gives these facilities. Now Abhidheya begins when, okay, this is the reality, this is where I am in at the moment. So let me start. So I am materially conditioned, materially attached, my senses are turned outwards. Now what's the solution? The verse number 47 talked about Shrotram. So, and that's how the creation begins. Sound creates ether, ether is filled with air. So if we want to get out of this material world from these transformations, which is making you more and more and more gross, you're bound completely. So the earth has got the maximum ability to bind you with all of those elements. Now the beauty of the acharyas is that they turn around the same earth element which has got the most binding potency, and what's described in text 46 is creating different forms of the Lord using the same earth element. Right? So that is why the way out begins by hearing from authorized scriptures, authorized sadhus and guru. So that Shrotram is the beginning point. And from there, you start to understand the Vedic knowledge. And one of the key aspects of Vedic knowledge, especially the Vaishnava literatures, they present about the deity worship. And that's what is being elaborated in text 46. So we will look little deeper into understanding the deity form, the process involved, and then by raising few questions like if God is everywhere, then why do we need a temple? So how will you answer that? If God is everywhere, why do I need a temple? So I don't need to come to temple. God is omnipresent. But I'm already seeing in the in his impersonal form. And all of these descriptions given are all just imaginations. So how will you? So that form is also made of matter, so that's also matter. So why should I worship matter? So you're saying prana pratishtha is done. Okay, so it is also just based on imagination, right? So one person imagines that, so I can imagine any form. So what Ravi is saying, that prana pratishtha is done and that's why we are worshipping. Okay, good. So and then we need a form. Okay, so how do you say that this form is spiritual? Okay, so that leads us into, because Prabhupada turns around the same argument and says that if God is everywhere, why He is not in the temple? He should be in the temple as well, right? If He is everywhere, He is in the temple also, so come to temple. And by understanding this, who is giving the earth nature? Who is it? And who is, yeah, exactly. So who is the one who is giving the water, the watery nature? Krishna describes it's me. Who is sitting inside the elements and giving the elements their particular nature? Fire, its fiery nature. Water, its watery nature. Earth, its all of its natures. Who is giving it? That is the Lord in the form of Paramatma. He's not only beyond the material creation in the form of Brahman, but he is also in the material creation. He is simultaneously in and out. As Paramatma, he is giving the earth all of its elements, all of its properties, of smell, taste, touch, form, etc. And when we talk about Paramatma, he is also inside the living being, and he is the one who is giving you the consciousness. So the living entity is conscious because you are part and parcel of the Lord, you are conscious. You are getting the consciousness from Paramatma. Just as moon reflects the sun's light, similarly we are small sparks of consciousness, small sparks of conscious beings. And we are getting that consciousness from the Supersoul. And when we talk about Supersoul, and that's where the form of the Lord is being described. Four-handed form, having a mace, having a club, lotus, conch, and Sudarshan Chakra. So that four-handed form is described. So we are getting into from impersonal to a personal form. Now, these forms are not imaginary. And as Ravi was pointing out, it is there in the scriptures, and scriptures give exact description. And Srila Prabhupada goes into a lot of details by quoting Brahma Samhita in the 46th verse. And elsewhere in 8.21, he gives a good description of what is being described in Brahma Samhita. 8.21 purport, Prabhupada says, the supreme abode of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described in the Brahma Samhita as Chintamani Dhama, a place where all desires are fulfilled. The supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Goloka Vrindavana, is full of palaces made of touched stone. There are also trees called desire trees that supply any type of eatable upon demand, and there are cows known as Surabhi cows which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis, and he is called Govinda, the primeval Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like the color of clouds. He is so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. Where do we come to know about this? This particular verse Mataji is quoting, Venum Konantam. Where else do we come across this? Brahma Samhita. Okay, other than Mataji. Where else do we... Darshanarthi. Very good. Now we are alert. So, this is what we have to say if somebody questions us. It's not just a blind... It's a nice tune, it's a nice song. Once we understand the meaning of it, where it's coming, and the whole description is authorized, authentic, this is what we are doing. It's not just a blind sentiment. It is in the scriptures. This is the mastermind of the Acharya. That's why he's called Founder Acharya. He has instituted within the institution to sing this song daily. So by default we know many things, but when we are questioned, we must be able to tell why we are doing what we are doing. So this description is not imaginary. The Supreme Lord is revealing in the heart of Brahma. So when we talk about revelation, because we are conditioned, somebody has to speak, the message has to travel in air, and it has to reach your ears, and then you perceive it, and then you process it. We call this, and then we have wireless communication, so many communications, what do you call, like Bluetooth, what else have we got now? So many. But the most sophisticated is directly communicating to the soul. Direct. And that's what Brahma got. the medium of transmission from heart to heart. Then you know. You realized. I don't have to hear, process, and all of that. It's because Lord is the supreme consciousness and supremely conscious being. And we are also conscious being. Through consciousness, the message is transferred. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. From heart to heart. And that's when, that's why this is called as the most sophisticated form of communication. You don't need a medium, all of that. So it's direct. Chakshudan Dillode Janme Janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan Hriday Prokashito. You see the connection? So that's what's happening. So when you're doing proper devotional service, the Lord reveals Himself, provided you're following a disciplic succession. Now we have established the fact that the descriptions are not imaginary, it is authentic, it is coming from Shastras. And some those who follow the impersonal school, they may not want to agree upon anything other than words spoken directly by the Lord, Shruti. So that's why Prabhupada a lot of time will quote from Upanishads, Katha Upanishad, and in this purport Prabhupada says, the Vedic literatures, Katha Upanishad 1.3.11 state that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead, and that abode is the ultimate destination. Purushanna param kinchit sa kasta parama gatihi. So why so many references to Upanishads? Because for those who don't want to accept Bhagavatam as the authority, even in the Upanishads it's there. And that's why Srila Prabhupada picked up Isha Upanishad and translated and gave purport and gave classes. In one of his purport to Isha Upanishad, I think it's mantra 7 or 8, where he clearly establishes that the Lord has got different expansions in terms of Chaturvyuha, and one of the expansion is the deity form of the Lord. And that's how he establishes clearly the authenticity of deity worship. So we have established the Lord as a supreme person. He has got a form and He can enter into matter and transform matter into spirit. And we have established clearly that this is not based on imagination, it's based on scriptures. Now this, next we move on to understand the mercy of the Lord, where He is able to come to us who are conditioned. He is able to give His audience through His Archa Vigraha form. And even in the Archa Vigraha form, there is, before, as Ravi was pointing out, the Prana Pratishta, I'll go through the steps. So a sculptor, based on the authentic descriptions in the Shastras, he carves out the form. So it is still considered as a statue. So then what transforms the statue to a deity? And there are steps involved. And even in this, we will see the connection with the 5 elements, the purity, the ingredients that are given in this material world, some are still pure. So we'll see the steps that makes the statue into a deity. So these are called as 6 installation rituals. So I took this from the anatomy of a deity installation. It's a document when in Mayapur, when Panchatattva deities were brought from the south and they were installed. So they prepared this document. So I can share it later on as well. So there are 6 steps. The first ritual is that of purification using the 5 items from a cow. So what are the 5 items you can think of from cow? Milk. What else? Cow urine. What else? Cow dung. You got 3. No. Good guess, but... So milk transforms into ghee. Before ghee, yogurt. So milk, yogurt, ghee, cow urine and cow dung. These are sprinkled over the statues. And this is called Shodhita Panchagavya Snan. The Vedic culture, everything about the cow is considered sacred and purifying. So this process purifies the deities of any faults that occurred during the carving. It also indicates that the role of the person who carved the deities, it's over. Now the pujaris are going to take over. So this signifies that transfer. Second step is opening the eyes of the deities. This is called Netra Unmilinam. So in this ritual, one eye honey is poured, indicating that eye signifies the moon. The other eye ghee is poured, indicating the eye as sun. So Krishna explains in the Gita that Sasi Surya Netram, and we also saw the beautiful descriptions of the eyes. So that description which is there in the spiritual world, in the Goloka Vrindavan, how he is. So we are getting that same beauty here, and we are following the steps. So once the eyes are opened, mantras sound, auspicious items are shown to the Lord, like the whole list of items are there: gold, silver, copper, stone, rice, ghee, yogurt, the Vedic swastika sign, the water from Ganges, earth from a holy place. You see how the 5 elements are, when used properly, it's elevating us. So that was the whole point I was trying to make. So then the third part is Sayana Divas, where the deities are placed in a bed surrounded by many auspicious items. Rice paddy, which is again grown from the earth, is placed under the bed, which is decorated with a beautiful cloth. Where does the cloth come from? Again from the earth. And then milk sweets are offered, and that whole night the deities are put to rest, and the offerings are left by the side of the bed. And that whole night devotees sing devotional songs. Then the next ceremony, 4th one, is about connecting the deities by kushagrass to an arena where there is fire sacrifice. This is called Tattva Samhara Nyasa. So Nyasa is the purificatory process, and there are different purificatory processes. So here the priest touches the different parts of the deity's bodies with the kusha grass stick while chanting a mantra. So the Gopala mantra is chanted backwards to remove to destroy the material effects, and then it is chanted forward normally to recreate the deities in their spiritual form. So the 4th step is over. Then comes now the deities are shown to the public, and then what could be the next step? What's done publicly for the deities? Kirtan, very good. Specifically Arati. Okay, what else? Abhishek, Haribol. So the next step is that of the installation procedure is Abhishek, which is bathing. And all the items, what all used in the Abhishek? You all know. We have attended many Abhisheks. Milk, yogurt, ghee, honey, fruits. And then finally they will hold a pot with a lot of holes. You've seen that? Finally they will, and a lot of people pour, and that's considered the last step within the entire Abhishek, where all the ingredients that they have taken before which the deities accepted. You will even see them colored powders being thrown. You've seen that? Yeah, petals. And finally the purification with water pouring through that 1,000-hole thing. So the shower of 1,000 streams is offered, and that rinses away all the liquids that are used to perform the bathing. The sixth element is what Ravi said is the prana pratishta, establishing the life force. So here is where the role of a pure devotee is crucial. It is he who is requesting the Lord by his devotion, requesting the Lord to come and reside in this form, and he is agreeing to worship him in a regulated way. The heart of the deity is touched and he is offered a formal prayer requesting him to please be present in his deity form. Those performing the ceremony meditate on the Lord in their heart, entering the heart of the deity. As a practical application, Srila Prabhupada emphasized the installation of Vrindavan Krishna Balaram Mandir. According to Prabhupada, just chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is enough to complete the installation. However, the local residents will not consider that as complete. So he made sure that all the procedure is followed. Parallelly, Kirtan was going on. And it was, we can see, it's the great effort of Srila Prabhupada in lecturing in this particular topic, text 46 and 47. Prabhupada elaborates on this point of how in this material world we take so much effort to build a house for oneself, for a family, because earth gives you that sustenance, that sense of coming back home, you're feeling a sense of shelter. But for building a home, how much one has to go through, get the permission from the council, water, electricity, all of that. He describes all of that. But we are also going through the same thing, but to please the Lord. To build a temple, again you need to go to the council, get the permission, which is what the devotees are doing at the moment. Generate the funds, get the water connection, get the electricity connection. You're doing the same thing, but it is producing a very spiritual effect because you're doing it for Krishna. It's like going to your opposing country and building your embassy there. Temples are called as spiritual embassies because this is material world. But here we are designating a space and creating a place for the Lord to stay. And this place is spiritual. And that's why temples are called as spiritual embassies. So the point is, the prana pratishta, that is done by a pure devotee. And then he agrees that I will arrange for the worship so that the Lord continues to stay there, accept our offering, then give us opportunity to do various services by which the senses, which are always turned outside and looking for different sense objects to satisfy the hunger, and those sense objects, those senses are engaged in the Lord's service. So each time you engage in a material interaction, it creates impressions, samskars. With the same mechanism now, spiritual samskars are being created. So that is why Prahlad Maharaj prays to the Lord to remove all those material impressions. Yati dasyasi Yati dasyasi. So he'll pray to the Lord, if at all you want to give me any benediction, Yati dasyasi me kaman varam stvam varadarshapa kamanam hridya samroham bhavatastu vrine varam. If at all you want to give me any benediction, please give me a benediction that all material desires are removed. And that's why this 5.18.8 also talks about removing those deep-rooted material desires. By deity worship, what we are doing is we are creating positive impressions. So every time you participate in an arati or a kirtan or an abhishek, it's a strong impression. That is also a key factor that will help us in our chanting, in our performance of other devotional services. And we have many pastimes where deities have interacted nicely. Many famous examples from, there is even a small book of Lord Narasimhadev in Mayapur interacting and reciprocating with the devotees there. He once told the pujari, don't turn on the light which is too bright, so dim it down a bit. It's too, when we wake up the deities, we don't turn on all the lights, we turn on the light which is got not great effulgence, a slight effulgence. Once one of the pujaris, he was in the brahmachari ashram taking rest, and then he felt a strong, somebody is pressing him, and then when he opened up his eyes, it was Lord Narasimhadev, and then he told that, don't fear me so much and worship me, it's okay, you don't have to be so fearful, so give up your fear and worship with love. I'm just summarizing, it's there in the book. So after that, the pujari couldn't sleep, and he jumped out of his bunk bed, went directly to pay obeisances to the Lord, and then he came back. So everyone was looking a bit odd at him when he was coming back. So then he realized that he was still in his gamcha when he went to the temple and bowed down and came back. So then the mark which Narasimhadev left is still in his body. You can read that. It's a small book they published. So the point I'm making is the deities reciprocate. We again have the Sakshi Gopal example, where the two brahmanas made a promise in front of the deities. So one of them said, I didn't make the promise. So the deity walked to give. So the other brahmana, the younger brahmana, was talking to the deity, and then Lord was talking back, so you should walk with me. So I can't walk. He said, if you can talk, you can walk. So please come. So that's the whole idea. And acharyas have spoken to the deities, and they've got revelations. Especially the other example that came to my mind is South India. Lord Varadaraj is famous for speaking. So one day devotee will nicely fan the Lord with a peacock feather, because it's very warm and hot. So the Lord will talk to him. And Sripad Ramanujacharya had a list of doubts that he has. So he approaches this devotee and gives him the list of doubts, and then ask the Lord and clarify this. And then the Lord clarifies. Should a devotee, if, for example, a devotee forgets the Lord at the time of his death, what happens? Will he not attain your abode? So because it's said in the Gita, you have to remember him at the time of death, so then you attain his abode. So what happens if one doesn't remember you? So Lord Varadaraj replied, saying that I will force myself into the memory of the devotee and I'll make him remember me. Yadi vatadi doshena mad bhakta mam na cha smaret aham smarami mad bhakta nayami paramagatim. Vata dosha, this interaction of these elements in our body at the time of death, we don't know. That's why King Kulashekar prays, let my mind, now it is absorbed in your thoughts, so let me leave my body now. I forgot that verse. Anyway, coming back to this point, so the Lord gives this, He clarifies. So the point is the deities accept our services and they also reciprocate. And famous example where Prabhupada to Radha Gopinath What did he pray? We even had the quote outside long back. You please take care of the devotees. I'm leaving you in the hands of. You please take care of them. And that's why the lordships are still reciprocating. Yeah. So this is the mastermind of the Acharya, where he uses the elements, the same elements which bind you, can also liberate you. And he installs the deity form. It's authorized, it's not imaginary, and gives us opportunity to do service. And we technically understood how all the 5 elements are being used in installing the deity, worshipping the deity, and Arati also we offer items. They're all transformations of different 5 elements. Why is the lamp being offered? To indicate fire. Why is the cloth being offered? To indicate earth. You see, incense, smell from the earth. Water, argya water. So it's not a blind sentiment, it's a fan, peacock fan, that's for the air. Like that. So this way we saw the significance of deity worship and how the Lord reciprocates and how the Acharya masterminds and engages in these 5 potent forms of devotional service, where I'll just end with this quote. A Nectar of Devotion, where Rupa Goswami makes a point where in Nectar of Devotion, when the 5 potent forms of devotional service is described, Rupa Goswami will describe that don't go to the Keshi Ghat. Don't go there. If you want to be happy with your family, friends and wife and children, don't go there. Why? Because there a bluish black boy will be standing and he'll be playing his flute. And when you hear that, all your connections with family, friend, all of that will be gone. So don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. So that verse is quoted in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu to exemplify deity worship. And this kind of presentation is called Vyaja Stuti, meaning indirectly glorifying. It seems as if don't go, but he actually says go there, so that you don't desire the company of your friends and within this material world. So that which is binding gets Hridaya Granthi Bedanam. We talked about all of this. It's happening through the worship of the deity. So I'll conclude there and see if there are any corrections, comments, questions on what we discussed. Yes. Okay. Grantharar Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.